Cody. Hello. What are you doing? He's a good boy. Good boy. Go on. Go lie down. Good boy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've got a little friend with me today who every single time I speak keeps looking at me. I thought today I would do the long-awaited my experience with chemotherapy video. I mainly just wanted to do it to bring awareness to the fact that young people can get ill too, but also that it's not how the films and TV make it out to be. So yeah, basically my last video I finished with my treatment was sort of doing its job, but it wasn't actually treating anything, it was just maintaining it at a level until my next treatment. So it wasn't helping the problem to go away, it was just what's the word, keeping it at a level, what I just said. But they mentioned to me about starting chemotherapy, which I didn't know how to take because I'd only ever heard of people having chemo for cancer, and I'd also not really had that much personal experience with it before. Like, nobody in my close family has had chemotherapy before, none of my friends had, so the only experience that I had with it was what was seen in the movies, and that absolutely terrified me because you see all these really sick, thin, bold people, and it's just the thought that I was gonna become one of those terrified me. The idea is that it would kill off my bad cells, even though they didn't know what they were. It's all like immune system related, and because chemotherapy dampens down your immune system so much, the idea was that it would try and kill off whatever my bad immune cells were. And then also on the other side, if I did have a tumour somewhere in my body that they hadn't found yet, the idea was that it would try and kill off that as well. So I actually had my first consultation to start it in February 2015, but because of lots of different reasons, like time scale of things, funding, myself being ill, I didn't actually start it until May 2015. So I was on a type called cyclophosphamide, which, if you allow me to get out my handy little notes, it's used to treat blood cancer, so lymphoma, leukemia, and for when people have bone marrow transplant, stem cell transplant, and it's also used to treat lung cancer and breast cancer, and probably some more. That was the type that I was having. I was having it Monday every 4 weeks. They put me in the Monday clinic because that was the lymphoma clinic, so that was the closest type of cancer to what I've got, I'm guessing, because it's blood cancer and my problem is my blood and immune system. Yeah, I was having it every 4 weeks on the Monday. So the Friday, I want to say the 23rd of May, but I'm not 100% sure because it was like over 4 years ago. I went in on the Friday to meet my oncologist. It had to be an oncologist because they're the consultants that are used to dealing with these sorts of drugs and have the most experience on side effects and what your blood should be looking like and all this sort of thing. I went in on the Friday, met my new oncologist who was absolutely lovely, and Prof, his team, so he was one of like the leading oncologists for lymphoma in the country, maybe the world, I don't really know, I haven't done my research, sorry. Yeah, I met the oncologist on the Friday, and he went through like the regime that I was going to be having. So the dose that I was on was because of my weight, and I was having that every 4 weeks. He went through all the possible side effects with me and just like reiterated why I was doing it, and I met one of the nurses that was going to be looking after me, and I went to the ward that I was going to be having it on, and the ward that I actually had it on was a Teenage Cancer Trust ward. So that meant that all of the nurses on there were specially trained for working with young people. There was a specific like person to call if you were ever unwell. There was social workers to speak to about like education or money or relationships or jobs, anything like that. There's a specific youth support coordinator who sorts out things like activities for you to do if you're an inpatient, or if you're an outpatient, like trips to go on or tickets, concerts, days out, all of that sort of thing. So it was really good. Like I felt like I had quite a lot of support there, and because everybody was my age as well, it helped a lot, make friendships and things like that. Generally the experience that I had on that ward was lovely, and it's not until you go to other wards that you actually realise, oh my god, I had it so lucky on that ward. Not there now obviously because I'm having plasma exchange, but this was while I was having my chemo treatment.
I don't know how I forgot to say this, but Teenage Cancer Trust wards obviously quite self-explanatory. They look after teens and young people going through cancer. So they normally have a separate outpatient bay, so you can be separated from the adults while having treatment. A separate inpatient bay, which the one where I was treated, everybody got their own rooms, their own bathrooms. And then a social space area which had its own kitchen. It had multiple tellies with skyboxes, DVDs. It had a jukebox, a pool table, loads of games, Xbox, Wii, PlayStation. So just ideal for young people, really.
So yeah, he was going through all the side effects with me. Hair loss, obviously. Dampen down immune system, more likely to get infections, could get sepsis, lowered platelets, so it could mean that I bruise and bleed more easily, lowered red blood cells, so could need transfusions for like anemia and stuff, sensitive to the sun, brittle nails, dry skin. Cyclophosphamide particularly is one that can damage your kidney, so they had to like keep a check on my urine and stuff to make sure that the kidney and the bladder wall would get like irritated or something. I can't overly remember. And obviously infertility is one. I'll just quickly put it out there. At this point we don't know how it has affected my fertility. We'll find out in the future, I'm sure, but it has the potential to affect it. But I didn't have time to like freeze any of my eggs or anything like that, so hopefully it'll all be okay, but we'll find out. So yeah, went through all of that, had a look around the ward, and the specialist Teenage Cancer Trust nurse turned to me and she went, have you thought about wigs yet? And I was like, really? Like, I've just stepped on the ward. Like, that was when it first seemed real to me, because it was such a shocking thing to say. Like, I had my hair and I was like, no, I haven't yet. But they sorted me out with a wig, which was from the Little Princess Trust. I'll leave a link down in the description below for them. They're absolutely amazing. They help children and young people who have lost their hair through treatment and give them a real hair wig, so you can straighten it, blow dry it, use heat on it, dye it, like they're absolutely brilliant. But yeah, that was the Friday, and then I came in on the Monday to have my treatment. Normally on chemo mornings you have to go up to see the consultants in a clinic, and they like take your weight, they do bloods to see that you're well enough that you can actually have the chemo, tests to see like your lungs and that you haven't got infections and anything like that. But because I'd just seen them on the Friday, I didn't have to, so I was able to go straight in, have my chemo. So it was my first one. I had it through, I had a portacath at the time. If I can insert a picture I will, but I don't really know how to edit properly yet, so we'll see. If there's a picture there then great, if not I'm sorry about that. It's basically just a tube that's under your skin, and they just pop a needle into it and it goes straight to the main artery to your heart, so you don't have to have cannulas and blood test needles and stuff every single time, which was brilliant. So had my first one and I felt pretty normal. Like when it was actually happening, I was terrified that I was gonna leave the ward throwing up and all my hair would start to fall out before I'd even got out of the chair, like how awful they make it seem in the movies, but it's literally just not like that at all. So I was able to go, I had to pick up my prescription of my anti-sickness and my antibiotics, because they just put you on those routinely when you're having chemo. And the hospital was about an hour away from my home. So got in the car absolutely fine, got about 3/4 of the way home and I started to feel a bit funny, but not like I was going to throw up or anything like that, just a bit funny. Like, I don't really know how to explain it. You know when you've had a day and you just think, oh, I just want my bed now? It was probably a mix between the chemo and the stress of knowing that it was my first one, didn't know how I was going to react. Everything was just overwhelming on that day. And then I was fine for the evening, and then the night time, so it had been quite a few hours and I was really poorly. And they say that your first chemos can sometimes be the ones where you react the worst. I don't really know why that is. I guess because it's just like a new thing, your body's not got used to it yet. But yeah, I ended up going back to the hospital because I was so poorly. But they sorted me out with some different anti-sickness. And then yeah, 4 weeks came around again, second one happened pretty much exactly the same. So this was June 2015. Hair was still hanging in there. Had my third one, July, and you know, it's the same routine over and over again. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it was absolutely so easy, like a joyful experience. It's not, it's chemotherapy. I'm just reluctant to share the gory details with you. But in terms of like my blood and like my kidney and my lungs and things like that, everything was as it should be. I didn't get any infections, coughs, colds, nothing. I was just very poorly. I lost quite a bit of weight as well, so I was put on steroids to try and like help it out a bit and help me stop being so ill. And then the August one came because they said they were going to trial me for 3 months and see how I got on with it, and then if it was okay I would have the full 6-month course. So I'd had my 3 months. The August one came round and they were going to add in another drug called rituximab, which is not an actual chemotherapy, but it's in the same family. It's like an immune modifying drug because that's been proven to work in my condition. I think that's used for like lymphoma and things as well, and it basically just clings to the DNA of whatever the bad cell is and destroys it, I think. But it turns out that actually I couldn't have that drug because I had a specific antibody in me that would have reacted with it and potentially caused me more damage than good. I won't go into the details because I didn't have that drug, so there's not much to say about that really. So my actual chemo for that month was called off because they weren't expecting me to not be able to have the drug. So I went back to see my consultant, and he basically said because of how poorly I'd reacted to the last 3 months, and it didn't seem to really get much better despite what anti-sickness drug they tried to add in, because they weren't trying to get anything malignant, so like cancer or something. He said that he would give me a break from it, try and rebuild some of my strength back up, and just see what happens, sort of thing. And I ended up having a very long break from that because I went to go and see a different consultant in Oxford who was meant to be an OMS specialist, but she said that the 3 months that I had should have been enough, and the fact that it's not really made a difference to my OMS yet, there's no point having 3 more months of the drug. So I basically was in a complete standstill from August until January 2016, which was literally hell, not knowing what was going on. But I went back to see my normal consultant, and he said, I can't see any reason why you can't carry on with the 6 months dose. But because I'd had such a long break from it, the 3 months that I had sort of become void because it had been months and months and months. So I had to start from the beginning and have 6 months of cyclophosphamide all over again. So I started in February, and it was pretty much the same story. I was still going to the Teenage Cancer Trust ward, and I had still been going for all this time because I had to have my port flushed. I'd made some really good friendships in that time. Even like the nurses and everything knew me. They, like, I wouldn't even have to book in at reception. They would just see me and be like, walk round, Amy, that's fine, I'll tell them you're here. So, you know, it sounds cliche to say that it's like one big family, but it really was, because we were all so close, going through something horrific together. So I had February, March, and my hair started to thin a little bit, like in the, I don't want to say corners because that sounds really horrible, but like the corners of my head and like where my hairline starts, and at the back as well, it was starting to thin around there. I think it was April I got my hair cut into a bob, kind of maybe a little bit shorter than this length, maybe like there. Yeah, April, May, and then end of May, June, I was really noticing that my hair in the shower, it's not as extreme as what they make it out to be in the movies. You don't run your hand through your hair and like it's just bald where you've left it. It's not like that. It would be you would brush your hair and then you would have a lot of hair in your brush, or you would wake up in the morning after being asleep and you would find so much hair on your pillow, like strands, or you would have a shower and wash your hair and then the plug would be full of hair. But it's not as extreme as like actual physical clumps coming out. For me, it wasn't like that, but it was starting to get to the point where I could really notice it, and I think other people were starting to notice it. I was not feeling confident or happy in myself. I'd lost quite a lot of weight because of the chemo, but then I was put on steroids because they knew that they were helping like the last year when I'd had it. So I was like losing weight but also not because of the steroids, if that makes sense. I just wasn't feeling very happy in my body. You look in the mirror and it just looks like it's not you anymore. So I ended up cutting my hair really short. It helped to not feel like it was coming out as much, but I really did not like that style on me. Like, it did not suit me at all. So that was when I started to wear my wig. I'd been quite private about the whole thing up until that point, like on social media and Facebook and stuff, because I didn't want people to think that, oh, there's Amy walking down the street, the chemo girl. Like, I didn't want to be that person. But when it got to the point where I had to start wearing my wig, I felt like I couldn't hide it anymore. So that was when I would start like making an Instagram post about things, or like when I was going in for chemo, my mum would check us in on Facebook. Oh God, it sounds so sad when you say it like that. But yeah, that was when I really started to come out about the whole OMS thing. So that was like May 2016, so it had been a whole 3 years of not really many people knowing what was going on. My hair, after each dose that I was getting, my hair was just feeling like it was like dead and scraggly and thin, and if I could do it again, I think I would probably just shave it before starting so that I didn't have to worry about it. But because it was my first chemo experience, if you like, I wanted to hold on to my hair for as long as possible. I kind of wish that I hadn't, because I think it made it a lot more traumatic for me when it didn't need to be like that. So yeah, and then I got to my last dose, which was July 2016. It just happened, poorly still again, but that was like my normal, so it was fine. I had a couple of times throughout when my bloods weren't brilliant, but nothing so that I had to be like a blood transfusion or anything like that. I got a few infections, but again, like, it didn't turn into anything. It didn't turn into sepsis, or I didn't have to have my line out or anything like that. So I think in general I was lucky with my chemotherapy experience, but it was still hell. Like, there's no tiptoeing around it. If you've got to have any of these sort of drugs, you're not going to be in for a good time. And I don't want to lie to you, because you might be watching this video because, you know, you've come here thinking, oh, maybe I've got OMS and I'm about to have this, or maybe my child has, or maybe you found it through cyclophosphamide tag and it wasn't brilliant, but you know, you get through these sort of things. And I do think the fact that I was on the Teenage Cancer Trust ward did help a lot, and the fact that I had support from friends that I'd made and we were all going through the same thing together, it was brilliant, really. Like, I would come in one day and I had barely any eyelashes, but then you would just look around and think, actually, that's okay, because nobody here is wearing mascara anyway, because nobody else has got eyelashes. Like, it was fine. So for our age group, if you can get on one of those wards, I'd highly recommend it. But I know that not everybody has access to that across the country, so I do consider myself really lucky. The result from that turned out that it helped for a few months, keep things at bay. I didn't need any further treatment for a few months, but then things started to come back again, which was why I've been put on plasma exchange, because it's a less toxic alternative to going back on to chemotherapy. So I hope this video has kind of helped answer any questions that you might have had. But don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell button, hit the like button if you can. I'd be really grateful. If you've got any questions about my chemo experience, about something that I've not gone into, whether that be about cyclophosphamide drug itself and side effects to do with that, or whether it be about OMS, or whether it be about Teenage Cancer Trust, I would love to answer them. So leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye. Say bye, Code. Say bye. No, not out the window. Good boy.